a sweeping global campaign that has gathered momentum in the wake of the gruesome Pahalgam terror carnage and the high-impact success of Operation Sindoor, where Indian forces neutralized multiple cross-border terror hubs. From global watchdogs to financial forums, from cricket fields to foreign parliaments, India is mobilizing all it can, its diplomatic capital, to build pressure on Pakistan for its continued patronage of terror networks. Just today, an all-party briefing was carried out by Vikram Misri. All of those members of parliament that have been selected for those different 7 delegations to go across the world, across 33 capitals to be precise, to tell the world why Pakistan harbors terrorism and also is a safe haven for the terrorist networks, and its biggest export is nothing but terrorism itself. And this strategic offensive is anchored in various key pillars. Let's break that down for our viewers. Firstly, and perhaps the most impactful, is India sending a bipartisan delegation of members of parliament to 32 strategic partner nations, including the UN Security Council members and key European Union states. Well, the goal is to personally brief global leaders on Pakistan's duplicity and the urgency for international action. We're talking about Qatar, the West Asian sector, the Americas. Going into Southeast Asia is going to be a different delegation altogether. And those names and lists have already been out there. There is internal politics as to why one was selected, why wasn't one selected. But at this point in time, when the nation is being represented at the global stage, it's not about one party or position. It's about the unified stance of one Bharat, one mission, and one message. The briefing for these global leaders on Pakistan's duplicity and the urgency for international action against terror sanctuaries has already been carried out, and they're going to be doing the same thing. We've got at least 7 of these groups, and one by one showcasing exactly where all they're going to be going, those areas highlighted on the global map for you to understand. Group 5, led by Shashi Tharoor, he's the Congress Member of Parliament, and former Ambassador to US Taranjeet Singh Sandhu is also going to be part of the panel. And not just this particular panel, all the 7 delegations have in some sort of capacity, have a former diplomat or a former ambassador to one of those nations in those key regions that are part of the delegations, to help these members of parliament better understand the hectic parleys of what might be a faux pas on multilateral setups like the UNSC, like the UN, like the FATF as well. And whilst we're talking about FATF, Supriya Sule going to be visiting Egypt, Qatar, Ethiopia and South Africa, part of that 7th and final group of delegation. Today, at least 3 different delegation groups were briefed by Vikram Misri, the Foreign Secretary. The other 4 are going to be briefed in the coming days before they venture out to their parts of the world to tell the world what Pakistan really is up to. And whilst we were talking about FAFT, that's the second point, that's the second key pillar here, because India is preparing to submit fresh intelligence to the Financial Action Task Force, or the FATF, the global body that monitors terror financing and money laundering. With evidence gathered from Operation Sindoor, India wants Pakistan's terror infra back under the FATF scanner. And whilst Pakistan was removed from FATF's grey list just in 2022, Indian agencies believe that the threat hasn't diminished, only gone underground, and we've shown it again in Operation Sindoor as well. Thirdly, at the international monetary front, you've got India flagging what it calls a serious reputational risk. With Pakistan seeking a new multi-billion-dollar bailout, India has urged time and again the IMF to reconsider handing out funds to a nation that has repeatedly used its resources to shield or support terror outfits. India's message is clear: IMF money must not become terror money. And of course, we earlier heard Raksha Mantri Rajnath Singh speaking to the Jawans at Bhuj, saying the same thing. The money that IMF has now given out indirectly means this is money for terror funding. And this isn't just reaction, it's a calibrated, comprehensive and coordinated diplomatic strategy aimed at globally isolating Pakistan over terror. So let's one by one decode India's multi-pronged strategy to hold Pakistan accountable. Joining us here on the broadcast, Ambassador Prabhu Dayal, former Indian diplomat, Lieutenant General Sanjay Kulkarni, defense and geopolitical expert. A very warm welcome to you. Pathikrit Pai, foreign affairs expert, also with us on the broadcast here. Gentlemen, do stay on with us. We've got one reaction coming from Shashi Tharoor, that big name that people wanted to talk about, whether he is part of the delegation, whether he's not part of the delegation, his own reaction. All of that has subsided. He is part of the delegation. He's going to be the floor leader for group number 5, going to the Americas. He's now come out and spoken about what transpired at this particular briefing. Let's quickly understand what Vikram Misri and these delegations are up to, and then we'll go across to our panelists. First and foremost to Ambassador, but Shashi Tharoor, on your screens first.
We had a very comprehensive and rich discussion. As you can see, a meeting that normally would have finished by 6 o'clock has gone on till 7 o'clock. It was a very thorough, wide-ranging discussion. We had 21 members attending, in fact 23 members attending, which I think is a record, I think, for this committee. 24th one came also, TK. So the fact is that this was a very, very thorough discussion. Many of the MPs had thoughtful questions to ask. There was even a desire to have a resolution expressing solidarity with the Foreign Secretary in the face of the unwarranted attacks upon him. He himself requested there should be no resolution, but it was a unanimous sentiment of the committee that he has performed a good service for the nation and we all stand with him. And that was not a formal resolution, but it was definitely the wish of everyone. I also want to add that the committee has in many ways covered a lot of constructive ground and is left with satisfactory responses to various questions.
All right, so a lot of things were discussed. Shashi Tharoor, ambassador over there, saying that the meeting was supposed to get over by, let's say, 5:36, and it went on to go up till 7:30. Imagine the kind of various, key aspects that would have been discussed at that particular meeting. But how effective do you think India's diplomatic strategy of influencing global perception as to what happened with Pakistan and us exposing their biggest export, terrorism, especially on multilateral platforms like the FATF, UN, UNSC, is our strategy in the right place right now, Ambassador?
Well, our strategy is twofold. Firstly, what we are trying to achieve in the near term, and secondly, what are our longer term objectives. Now, you rightly said that this is a very important diplomatic offensive because it is extremely important that India should appear united. And as you pointed out, it should not matter who is included and who's excluded. What is important is that the delegation comprises so many different political parties and conveys the message that India stands united. That's a very important message. And I must say that including some critics of the government, like Mr. Saduddin Owaisi or some others, is important because it conveys the message that all across the political spectrum, India stands united on this extremely important issue. Now, there is an effort very deliberately made by Pakistanis to divide Hindus and Muslims. In fact, General Asim Munir himself said just a month or so ago that Hindus and Muslims are entirely different and cannot live together. We have shown that not only can they live together, they can work together for achieving national interests. So I think the composition of the delegation is very good. This objective is being pursued with all seriousness. In the shorter term, we have to convince the global community about Pakistan's terrorist activities and that there should be zero tolerance towards it, as we have repeatedly said. In the longer term, we have to take steps which would put Pakistan back on the grey list, because certainly financing of terrorism does take place from Pakistan. We have to also make sure that international agencies do not support Pakistani terrorism. It was really, really disheartening to see that the IMF sanctioned $1 billion to Pakistan just around the time that it had carried out the Pahalgam terror attacks, just 2 weeks after that. And while we were trying to put pressure on Pakistan, and we find that the IMF is giving $1 billion to that country. So there are long-term objectives which have to be achieved. But in this entire exercise, what is extremely important is that the country stands together and that the political leaders who represent the people also are together and do not speak with divisive voices.
No, you're absolutely right. Many thanks for those opening comments. General Kulkarni, let me quickly come to you next, because from a military standpoint as well and from a geopolitical standpoint as well, how critical in the aftermath of, let's say, the Pahalgam terror carnage, the Operation Sindoor success, how critical is it to connect tactical military success to diplomatic outcomes? And with all that's being done, with all that Ambassador just said, are we doing that effectively, sir?
Thank you, Kabir. I think the ambassador got out very well. There's no denying the fact that at the tactical level, we made it absolutely and amply clear that we were only targeting the terrorists. And there is no denying the fact. We only targeted the terrorist camp. And thereafter, when Pakistan retaliated, then of course the offensive was there, in which we destroyed their military bases, their radar bases, and bombed some cities. That's perfectly fine. But that was retaliation. To begin with, targeted the terrorist hubs, and also informed them that the terrorist hubs have been targeted. Having said that, I think it's a very, very important thing. You are now going from a position of strength. Position of strength, well, not with a view of wanting to say that we are the victors or something like that, but yes, from a position of strength, being able to tell the world, the country that you are all along been wanting to defend and protect for years on. 24th bailout of the IMF. What's this going on? They're using that money entirely for terror funding. There's Pakistan, which is excellent in PR. Whatever little I've seen of Pakistan, excellent PR, excellent hospitality, excellent guests. And they would go out of the way, would do nothing. But at the international level, they'll have people all over wanting to say, what does that happen? And why does that happen? Pakistan would not want tougher questions coming to them. India, on the contrary, believes in work, showing the world and being able to convey to the world that, look, for us, it's zero tolerance for terrorism. To us, we are the victims of terrorism. The perpetrators are Pakistanis. They are using terrorism as an instrument of state policy. So all the years that we've been wanting to support that state, they're using and money laundering and what have you, all of it being done by Pakistan. And therefore, this military action, which is greatly successful, has been able to strengthen the arms of diplomacy and be able to go on the world stage. Fantastic bipartisan, entirely a mix of all. You have diplomats there, you have Muslim representatives there, you have everyone. So it's showcasing the Indian democracy, it's showcasing the Indian strength, it is showcasing to tell the world that if it comes to push comes to shove, we are not going to leave Pakistan, and Operation Sindoor is not over. It's just held in abeyance, and the Pakistani behavior will be seen hereinafter. In that context, I think it's a very successful thing, and we must continue to do it and sustain it so that Pakistan is isolated. The world knows that this country is, but whatever we might say, the West have their own way of putting it across, like the ambassador rightly said, on the eve. Imagine $1 billion given, yet another $2.4 billion on the way. So Pakistan will continue to use this money. 14 of their terrorists who have died, wrapped up in national flags of Pakistan, being given $1 crore each of the money.
The Pakistani government has already said that all the mosques and those educational institutions in Muridke are going to be rebuilt by the government themselves. Something that we obliterated over there. Patikrit, let me come to you at this point. India is trying to build this coalition of our global partners to put pressure on Pakistan. The ambassador and the general helped us understand what India's foot forward is going to be. It seems that everything is going to the plan, and at least, our steps are being kept in the right direction. But are we going to be looking at tangible support coming from the West, just like the general was pointing out, or are we going to be knocking on the door of strategic ambivalence, especially from these global power centers like Washington and Brussels vis-a-vis the European Union? What do you think is going to happen? My apologies for jumping the gun here or making you jump the gun here, but help the viewers understand, what are we expecting when we go do that, when Supriya Sule visits South Africa, when Shashi Tharoor visits the Americas? What happens from there?
Well, first and foremost, I think it's a very important step by Government of India, but I don't think they are going for either complaining or asking for any kind of support. The reason is this: India has set its doctrine that henceforth, whatever happens, we will retaliate as and when and whatever way we wish to, because we have waited for far too long for the West to take action. The West doesn't want to take action. Let me say it very bluntly. Those countries to whom India's delegates are going, they will just go to put forward India's standpoint. They are not going to go and say that how bad Pakistan is. The reason is the West exactly knows what Pakistan is. If the terror organizations are non-state actors, are or they're an instrument of statecraft for Pakistan, then Pakistan itself is an instrument of state policy for many of the Western countries and China. We have to understand it. They have. Is it that IMF doesn't know what Pakistan is? They exactly know what Pakistan is there, and that's the reason they want to keep Pakistan alive. That's the reason they want to keep Pakistan afloat. That is something we must understand, and that is what will be conveyed to them. That look, we have waited for far too long. Whatever happens henceforth, whatever decision we take, do not blame us. So please understand, they have a policy, whether we like it or not, to be put it very bluntly, whether our strategic partners or our adversaries, there is a particular objective for them to keep Pakistan afloat so that the game of containing India continues. There are many countries, starting from those in the west to the east, they don't want India to get destroyed. No, they don't want that. But they want India to be challenged time and again so that we remain below the threshold and we can keep on struggling with our own problems. We keep on firefighting with terrorism so that we can't become the challenger. In many of the Western universities, take this from me, there is this theory that China is today's problem, India is the problem for tomorrow. So here is a country which had altered its counter-terror response mechanism, and that is a worry for the Americans. That's the reason. Why do you think they keep on coming that, no, let's not have anything else, let's have dialogue? It's because they do not want us to cross the threshold. India is going to make it very clear, and that we will cross the threshold come what may, because we have tolerated for far too long. Donald Trump, President of United States, sits and says, oh, Pakistan is a beautiful people, we'll go do a lot of trade with them. This was the same guy 6 years back. He said that all we got from Pakistan was lies and deceit, and he stopped the aid for fighting terror, $33 billion that the United States gave. So is it that they don't know? No, they exactly know. And that
no, their double standards are quite rightly in front of everybody else. Even on that plane, Donald Trump said that, we like Pakistan, we like India as well. He got a picture with Golani. I mean, Al-Qaeda wanted terrorist pictures, something that was put out by his previous administration. And now he's getting a picture clicked with the president of Syria, this Al-Qaeda terrorist. I mean, it only shows the duplicity of America as well. You're right. They all know what's at play over here. Ambassador Dayal, Pakistan was taken off the FATF grey list back in 2022. What kind of new intelligence is India now going to give to these multilateral setups to help them, put the lens back on Islamabad? I mean, there are two ways, two purviews with which Pakistan is looked at. One is of course, a geopolitical lens, that it's a country that exists, and the other one is of the counter-terror lens. How is this Indian delegation now going to shift that purview?
Well, first of all, let us recall that Pakistan was taken off the FATF grey list because America wanted that to happen. You see, America needed Pakistan on its side in the context of the policy which it was pursuing in Afghanistan. It wanted to get out of Afghanistan, and it wanted to do so as favorably as possible, and for that, Pakistan had to be on its side. So America played a very important role in getting the Pakistanis out of the FATF grey list. Now, Pathikrit Payne is absolutely right. We can't really expect any country, whether it is the United States or Europe, to really pay heed to our concerns about Pakistan. They do as it suits them. Now, as regards the United States, I have no hesitation in saying that the biggest interest of the United States in South Asia is to market their expensive weapons to us. India is the world's biggest importer of weapons. The United States is the manufacturer of high-end weaponry and is in fact the world's biggest exporter of weapons. Now, if India's neighborhood is peaceful and stable, we don't have need for sophisticated weaponry. So, the United States has a vested interest in keeping hostility alive in our neighborhood. As regards China, they don't really have to do much. China pursues its own policy. But as far as Pakistan is concerned, by helping Pakistan to bolster its military strength, by helping Pakistan to tide over its economic problems through the IMF aid, the United States is keeping the security challenges more alive for us. And this is what suits them. Very frankly, the United States doesn't really want India's geopolitical environment to be peaceful. Rather, they want it to be unstable and hostile because, as I said, their weapons will sell. That is their interest. Now, what should we do? We should realize that when push comes to shove, we are in it alone. We have to fight this battle on our own, and we have to be prepared to do that. Whatever it takes. Of course, we will brief other countries, they will say nice things to us, they will present their points of view. But when it comes to tackling the menace from Pakistan or from China, we have to do it by ourselves. And what is important is that the country should stand united. I'm happy that the parliamentary delegation is from across the board, from across the political spectrum. It looks very composite. It represents Hindus and Muslims, people from different sections of society, and it gives a very good picture of oneness.
You're absolutely right, Ambassador, because I mean, I wasn't around on planet Earth back in 1994 when Atal Bihari Vajpayee led that delegation, but I can clearly tell you that what I see from the pictures, at least, it gives a very positive vibe as in terms of, how the parliamentarians are, unified in their stance of exposing Pakistan on the global stage. General Kulkarni, I know you're a busy man, but I must ask you this as well. Given Pakistan's deep-rooted military terror nexus, and with what Ambassador and Mr. Pai was also talking about, can any international pressure, be it the FATF, be it the IMF, can it realistically dismantle the proxy war network that Pakistan is so hell-bent on creating again, and of course, creating further, expanding it further?
To be honest, never. We can only deter it, but never ever can we do it. Because the world wants India to be boxed in South Asia. The world doesn't want India to be economically strong. Neither America nor China. Definitely not China. Here's a country they found it excellent. Hate India. Bleed India with 1,000 cuts. What better enemy that they can have? And they are going to exploit it to the hilt. They will never ever allow India to grow. And that's the way it is. So keeping India boxed, that's very, very important for them. For us, it's to ensure that we are. Therefore, this particular delegation is just about informing that, look, whatever you might think of about our country, this is where we are. They all understand. They all know what India is. After all, India is an old civilization. They know exactly the strength of India, and that is what bothers them. That is what worries them. How come this country has come up again all over on the world scene at a point of time when we had about 25% of the world's GDP, and tomorrow, or whatever it is, even if you have 7% of the world's GDP, it shakes them. They don't get to know what's going to happen. Huge population, fantastic economically, the strength, the economic strength, the military strength, the technological strength, all of it is what is battling. And even whatever America will do, America will always bail out Pakistan, and Pakistan is a uniqueness of survival. You find it was earlier also, it was Allah, Army, America. It's back again to Allah, Army, America, and also with China, saying that, well, our friendship with China is higher than the Himalayas, deeper than the ocean, sweeter than the honey. All that Pak will keep doing. Otherwise, which country in the world has got 24 bailouts? Nobody gets so many bailouts one after the other. What does that show? They keep getting aid. The complete thing that Sargoda base have Americans over there, and all F-16s are there. That's where they were hit hard. The Americans who stayed there, and where they got $390 million, they woke up to realize what's hitting them. But America, well, good friend, good thing. Let's keep it that way. But we have to build our own strength. We have to get strong. We have to be strong enough to be able to, I won't use the word dictate, but yet not get dictated. So on that context, I think all these delegations, all of them, when they see, the fantastic women in the delegation, the way they speak, the way they conduct, the way they present themselves, and there's a delegation, they ask all kinds of questions on the interquarter treaty, on the nuclear threshold, I mean, everything, all what happened, what is Pakistan doing? I heard delegation from all across the country, presenting them, telling them in words that matter. I think it's a fantastic move. It's a fantastic initiative. It should be sustained and it should be on and on because Pakistan has. I've seen it, please. I'm sure the ambassador knows.
General. I mean, this definitely should be sustained. Let me tell you, there is going to be no bailout from the wrath of our members of parliament over there, that Pakistan is certainly going to face. So we're completely running out of time. But Mr. Pai, I'm going to come to you to have the last say. When this delegation goes there, and just to make sure that neither is my question, your answer, or this delegation's efforts that go in vain, how should India deal with this constant narrative that they are going to be facing? It is going to be thrown upon them to equate India and Pakistan as a bilateral conflict rather than a global terror exporter. This narrative they'll have to deal with every country that they go to as well. How do you think, what is the best way to deflect this and effectively answer these kind of narratives and questions?
So, Kabir, as I stated, we are not going there to ask for favor or to explain. We are just telling them what we will do next time. That is the difference. And let me tell you, an assertive India makes the West very uncomfortable. So you will see the West will replenish the Pakistanis for whatever destruction they have faced. And they might use the Turkish route, which is pretty apparent now. So we are not going to convince them. You can't convince somebody who is actually complicit in what Pakistan is doing. So all I want to say is this. We have exposed the nuclear bluff of Pakistan. What we should do a little more is this. Ambassador Dayal mentioned about India's economic might and the market. We should also start putting conditions as the West tries to put by saying that you can't have business with India and have, keep on supporting Pakistani terrorism. So if you want a pie of the Indian market, then you must take care of the fact that you do not support Pakistan for whatever nonsense they do. That is the language today, I think, we must speak to the West and the Chinese, that you can't have a pie of our profit and then, pay a part of it to the Pakistanis to kill our people only. So you have to speak to the West and also China the same language they have used for the rest of the world. An assertive India is the West's nightmare. They would plant, and let me tell you, the West will always try to hyphenate because the West can't come up and say, look, the American weapon systems have been beaten black and blue by the Indians with their indigenous weapon systems. There's a defense lobby of the West which has created this fake aura of invincibility that the American weapon systems or the Western weapon systems can never be defeated. This time, whether it was Balakot or whether it was, Operation Sindoor, the Indian weapon systems, the Indian pilots, the Indian air defense system actually has shown them their place. So you would always see Western media creating a narrative that we are hyphenating, we both will be hyphenated. We have to come out of it. I think we should have utter disregard beyond a point about what the Western narrative talks about us, because they will be into fakery. And we have to have a little more thick skin and go on with our business as usual, put conditions. Our market is exclusive, not for those who, help Pakistan become stronger in terms of exporting terrorism.
I think you're absolutely right. You've hit the nail on the head over there, because our job is to put forth that one mission, one Bharat, one message. And whoever's choosing what side, it's going to be clear from chalk from cheese. We're going to be able to distinguish, and it's going to be helpful for our diplomacy as well. We'll know who's actually with us and who's actually not. Let's leave it right here. The first meeting has happened, and of course, the steps have been taken in the right direction. We're going to continue to talk about this, because this isn't just about diplomacy. It's about drawing clear global lines between statecraft and state-sponsored terror. India's message is loud and clear. The world can no longer look away. Well, even if they do, we're going to continue to spread our message about this expose on Pakistan, whether in the halls of the International Monetary Fund or the watchdogs of FATF, or through the soft power of sport. That news still not out there, but you never know, things can change in a jiffy. New Delhi is pushing the global conscience to act.